Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for listening in today. I'm excited to spend the next hour together with Danielle Johnston, Senior Interactive Consultant from Blackbaud, and myself, Mike Johnston, of HJC. Social media and the next generation of Canadian giving. Social media is such a hot topic. We want to make sure that we have practical and inspiring conversations with this documentation, and we want to jump right in. So just to make sure that you know, after the webinar, we'll be emailing you links to the slides you've got, and I really want you to use the slides as change agents. So there's more than just pictures here. There are a number of slides today, and they have solid content that will be logical and make sense when you print them off and talk to colleagues, board members, and others in your organization. The recording will also be there. And there'll be a link to our next webinar on mobile giving, crowdfunding. Exciting topics, timely. We want to do a great job in covering that and giving you information as change agents as well. And there will be a link to a survey. You'll see the link here in the presentation, but if you don't have time to copy it down, I'd rather you be copying great ideas down today. You'll have a link to that survey to win an hour with me to talk about the topics around social next generation giving. And just a reminder about the Next Gen report. For those of you who haven't downloaded it, oh my gosh, you're missing out on a great thing. You may be an insomniac and you want something to put you to sleep, but this isn't going to be it. Those of you who haven't downloaded it, grab it. Great infographic as well, but many of you listening in have already downloaded this report. It's full of all kinds of fundraising goodness, including social media. We'll look at some of that today. Just a reminder, we've got an hour together. You can type in questions, and Danielle and I will do our best to answer them along the way. We want this to be interactive where it's appropriate. We want to make sure in your busy day that we end on time. So why do we do something like the Next Generation of Giving study? For us as fundraisers together listening today and talking, a self-identification survey, a self-reporting survey is a chance for us to listen to donors. And so this study done with Gen Y, Gen X, Boomer, and Civic donors in Canada is a chance for us to see what they're saying and see how we can action that material. And so in our conversation today just about social media, I'm sorry, but some days I want to pull my hair out like this perhaps fundraiser doing social media in an organization. People are reading so much about it. The Zuckerberg kind of effect and aura makes, for example, board members knocking on your door, sending you an email saying, we've got to do something just like this social media site, or we've got to get on this new shiny bright object. We want this report, we want the slide deck today to provide some logic, an understanding of the marketplace, and context as you use social media, because I'm sure all of you have limited resources and you need to be able to understand where you fit in. Why is social media important? Some pretty fundamental things here. First, community was built by geography in the past. Shared values and like-mindedness came from physical proximity. I walked my kids to school along the main street, and I went by the church or synagogue where I would on weekends see individuals who shared my value sets. I would see people on the street and wave to them and understand, you're like me, we're together in community and neighborhood. I would walk then to work, another place of shared purpose. So physicality was where we found shared value and like-mindedness, and more on the right-hand side, that community of shared value and connection is electronic. For better or worse, this is the reality we're in. That's why social media matters, because social destinations online are the NGO's go-to place more and more to find people who are like-minded and to have communities working together with shared purpose. And so when we look at reports like NextGen and we extract social media, the study itself was a sampling of 4 generation subsets of donors. So we have to remember these are donors, not just regular citizens. And there are the big winners, right? Using it regularly or not regularly, YouTube and Facebook are off the charts. They are ubiquitous. But you can see heavy usage of things like LinkedIn and Twitter, and then minority participation in other places of shared social purpose. So when you have to rationalize, if you have limited funding and staff, where you will concentrate your efforts, this is part of how you make your decisions, I believe. So let's have 3 tests to help you get in the mind space of this NextGen social media section of the study. I'm going to ask you to write on very quickly, and I don't think we have a lot of time, write down some of these sites, and on the right-hand side is the percentage participation of all donors from Gen X, Gen Y, Boomer, and Civic. So more people use Change.org is at 17%. Twitter, 59%. Instagram, 41%, the donors polled. Facebook, Zuckerberg is happy and so are the shareholders, 91%. LinkedIn, 48% of donors using it. YouTube, 99%, almost 100%. Who can resist Will Ferrell with a Durango ad or a funny cat story? Flickr, 22%, and Pinterest, 37%. So again, just think through where you put your effort. So when we look at Gen X, and so that was Gen Y, it's different for Gen X. How is it different? Change.org, lower percentage, right? Twitter, rising. Instagram, 15%. So Facebook, smaller percentage, right? Not the same ubiquitous usage that we saw with Gen Y. LinkedIn, a higher percentage, right? YouTube, slightly lower, but almost 100%. Flickr and Pinterest. So go back and forth and look. Pinterest, much higher per capita usage with Gen Y than Gen X. Again, you may want to think with your social media which age subset is most important in this campaign and then alter the number of social media initiatives you have. Let's take a look at Boomers. Change.org. They don't even know how to spell it. They don't even know what it is. Twitter, 22%. Right? Instagram, tiny, 4%. Facebook, again, a majority position, but lower than the other 8 subsets. LinkedIn, solid and connected to career and place in your life. YouTube, very high. Right? Flickr, a small percentage, and Pinterest even smaller, and drops off, especially in comparison to Gen Y. So as you think through your different age subsets, who's important in your campaigns, you may alter, like in the last slide. Now, civics. What are the old people doing here? Change.org. They don't even know what it is. A small percentage. Twitter is small. Instagram, tiny. Facebook in the majority. So if you're reaching civics and social media, Facebook seems to be the place. A quarter are on LinkedIn. 61% like to see the videos on YouTube. Flickr is small. And last, Pinterest. So let's make sure we define age ranges, and you'll see that in the study. For matures, we're talking people born before 1946, so over 65. Boomers from 1945 back to 1963, and then moving backwards to Gen X and Gen Y. Gen Y are a 10-year age subset from the 80s through the 90s, and then the Gen X in between from 1965 back to 1981. So the full study will show that, and thanks for asking someone. So for us looking at social media and fundraising and the Next Gen study, there are unknowns we want to get at. I mean, what is the role of social media for nonprofits as it relates to what donors are telling us? You've seen some of the preferred social networks for each generation as we've gone through that grade 2 association exercise. I mean, what role does social media play in Canadian giving? And there are some surprising things. And how can I use social media strategically? These questions are questions we hear often from senior management and from board of directors. And so getting some data and an empiricism to this is going to help you in your day-to-day jobs around fundraising and social media. Some of the takeaways from today, we're hoping, which of my donors are using social media, how do they use it themselves, and you have deeper reporting on that. Let's make sure that you know that we have broken out the social media documentation and findings in the Next Gen report and have written a separate white paper. That separate white paper will be sent to you sometime in the next week as a follow-up to today's session. So do donors value the social media efforts you're making now? How can I engage my donors more effectively using it? And Danielle and I will provide some more detail. And again, we're trying to help you should you concentrate your efforts, and I think as you look at different usages for different age subsets, I think you'll begin to find your own answers. So what type of donors donor is using social media, and how can we categorize the 4H subsets? So let's look at Gen Y, and we've tried to find some base attributes based on this study this year. I mean, Gen Y, it's not surprising. They are the most active on social networks. They are the early adopters, and you see that a few minutes ago around Pinterest, for example. Most willing to connect, promote, and donate via social media. So these are your digital natives. And if this age subset is important to you, then investment in human resources, technology, and business rules for social media and fundraising makes sense. And that word promote we will come back to. So the ability for social media to get the word out on your mission or your campaign is something that is fully leveraged by Gen Y. And how do you make plans to better leverage their promotion fetishism compared to the other age subsets? You can see they're most active on YouTube, Facebook, Pinterest, Instagram, change.org, and Care2. What about Gen X? They are also heavy internet users. They are not the new social network adopters like Gen Y, but they are comfortable supporting charities through social media in our findings. So it's important to think through how you do that better. They're most active on LinkedIn and Flickr compared to other ages. So think about that if you want to reach Gen X more in a campaign and want to use social media. LinkedIn and Flickr may make the most sense. If someone from the Hospital for Sick Children in Toronto is listening in, we found together that a donor subset within sick kids was 300% per capita more in LinkedIn than the average populace, and sick kids thought through a strategy around LinkedIn and giving because they found a high representation with their donor base on LinkedIn, and that may be true of yours. The one thing I would also say is do a survey, a social media survey of your own donor base to compare to our Next Gen findings. So take what we've done, ask people in your database, and see where there are similarities and differences, because there often are. And last, you can see highly active on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. Okay, good old boomers or Zoomers. Boomers with zip, as they like to redefine themselves. Use the internet a lot. selective on the networks they join and participate in. Again, not digital natives, and they are careful with limited time with their busyness to choose, see, and act where they're comfortable online. Active on YouTube, Facebook, and LinkedIn, and significantly smaller in the locations on the bottom bullet. Again, with rationed resources, and if that's a group you want to improve social media relations with and in fundraising with social media, they may not be the places, and the third bullet may be the place where you put more effort. Last, civics. They're spending as much time online as any other age group. So when we look at the amount of time they're spending in the study, it's the same. Perhaps because they just move more slowly to get things done. But they're there as much. They're active on some social networks that you saw. They are more passive, without a doubt. But when we compare the study from 2010 to now, we see engagement increasing on, I would say, more comfortable and well-known places like Facebook, YouTube, and LinkedIn. And a quarter of civics are in LinkedIn, which is amazing and interesting for you as you think through strategies, and then much less active in the sites you see below. So let's talk about social engagement, and are individuals in different age subsets wanting to do more. Here is an interesting statistic. Do they join causes on social networks? And you can see joined a nonprofit and or charitable cause social network group, a big difference between the younger age subset and the oldest, 28 down to 5. So there's no doubt that the digital natives are stepping up and joining causes. How do you make sure you properly leverage that predisposition of younger age subsets? And there's no doubt that social media needs to fit into the traditional media mix, right? That mainstream media, when we look at the results in the Next Gen study, are incredibly important. So when we look at the role of radio, television, traditional channels, and traditional media, they are large drivers for awareness and first engagement across all age subsets. But if you have limited budget and not everyone can afford radio campaigns or television campaigns, then more and more social media, when we look at the Next Gen report, can reach all age subsets and be cost effective. Why would I show a picture of Roe? And it's past lunch. Because there is a new definition on what you get in return for your spend, and we're calling Roe the new, so the return on engagement is the new return on investment, and it's the way we think we should be looking at social media investment. I mean, are your donors engaging with you through social networks? I think this brings up the point, and I'm sure Danielle would agree, that tracking and understanding the metrics of usage and engagement from social media in turning someone into an activist, turning someone into a pledger. We need to have better analytics in social media, and the funnels that turn people into other things and get their data has to be better. We cannot calculate return on engagement unless we have better analytics. But in fundraising, right, we need to build that funnel between social media engagement and that passover to giving on a donation form, and we need to make sure the analytics connect better together. And we see that as a weakness. So when we think about engagement, what are donors doing in Canada online? You can see the 4 age subsets from Gen Y at the top, Gen X, Boomers, and Civics, following an organization on social media. Huge difference between young and old. Sharing about the charity on Facebook, big difference again between young and old. Same with following a charity's Twitter feed. Fundraising using social media, huge gap between oldest to youngest. Pin something about the charity on Pinterest, right? A Google Hangout connected to charity. For Gen Y, the numbers are very large and encouraging. Older age subsets, this is not the primary way that they're engaging, but that's not to say they're not learning, right, and connecting to you, but they're not engaging as much. So what does all of that mean to you? I mean, donors value your social media presence, especially younger. You can see what they're doing online in that last slide. If reinventing your donor base over time is important, and it is to most of us, then social media is clearly going to be absolutely primary as it relates to moving Gen Y along, and reasonably important for Gen X. So for reinvention, absolutely important. And for all age subsets, I mean, social media is the place where they're more and more learning about you, interacting with like-minded individuals, and being seen in a community, connecting to your mission, right? So for us, I mean, as fundraisers, right, how do we take that non-transactional engagement in social media and move people to be more like an evangelizer for your cause through social media? So let's take a look at this idea of being an evangelizer, and what is that in social media. There's no doubt social media, for good and for bad, allows people to get on their soapbox. It can be incredibly irritating to listen to people spout what they believe and what they don't know in the social media space, but it's also a beautiful place for informed supporters to tell others, right, what's going on, what they believe in, and why someone else should know more about a cause they care about. So the soapbox is an opportunity for you to let evangelizers get on top of that box and shout to the world that you're great. And you can see that great statistic for NextGen. 50% of Canadian donors in the survey are comfortable telling others about the cause, and social media is a beautiful turbocharge to that opportunity. So when we look at NextGen, will people promote a charity through Facebook? Will they raise money for charity through social media? You saw the numbers earlier, and this is just a reinforcement that it is very important, and high participation rates, though still in the minority, for younger age subsets. So social giving, just the numbers, right? Please show me the numbers. Well, they ain't so good. In some ways, and in some ways it's encouraging. When we asked people across all age subsets, which of the following ways to give have you done in the past 12 months, all ages in the aggregate in Canada, number one was checkout donation. So that's, I've had a hard day at work, I'm going to go buy 2 bottles of wine at the government liquor store, I'm going to get drunk, and then someone asks you on the way out if you'd like to give $2 to sick kids as well as walk away with your wine. So that's the main way per capita. It's not the largest amount of money, but more people have done that than any other way to give. Now look at the bottom. I like the Churchillian altered quote, never have so many given so little in social media. It's just not the way people are giving directly. That's not to say, if we ask what influenced you to give, we would see social media much higher. But as a transactional place, it's small. And you can see the difference between civics and Gen Y. All numbers are small. So it's not the main transaction place, but you're hearing the way we're talking about engagement, right, and getting people to tell others about who you are. These are the primary ways we use social media. We did a U.S. and Canadian study, and so just as a reminder of the differences and similarities in the two NextGen reports, you can see 4% more American civics promoted charities through social media. So it seems that older age subsets are slightly more jiggy with it to use social media than our older age subsets. But here, Canadian Gen Xers are 8% more interested in viewing video. So there are differences and similarities. Then you can see American Gen X and Boomers find social media appeals more acceptable than Canadian counterparts. So I think generally Americans tend to be faster adopters of new technology, and I think you can see just a slightly greater comfort. But the takeaway for you with Next Gen in Canada is that it is an arrow going upward as it relates to the kinds of things you see on the screen now, that all age subsets are getting more comfortable doing things in social media. So, you know, when we try to guess those future opportunities and try to make them educated guesses through next-gen social media research, we see things like, you know, seeing your impact through imagery resonates well with all generations in this report. So here are things to take away. Gen Y would view charities' photo stream and contribute video directly to charity. Right? Gen X would follow a charity's photo stream. So video, pictures, a rich multimedia experience is something that needs to be better connected to social media in future solicitations. That's a key takeaway for you from the study. And so when we look at and just tried to highlight some of this, the things that people will do, right, to support an organization, right, share photos or links for Gen X and Gen Y, pin charitable Pinterest pins, 27% of Gen Y, right, view a photo stream, and you can see the numbers are reasonable across all age subsets. And then the last circle about view a video posted or sent by a charity, reasonable numbers in the 20 to 30% all the way across. So, and that's connected back to the fact that you can see everybody loving kitties and doggies and YouTube. I mean, there's no doubt across all ages. So video and pictures and social media for future social fundraising campaigns, we have to do better at this. So just in conclusion, before I pass it over to our very capable Danielle, that some key findings on social media to guide you as you go back to the report or when you talk to people within your organization. I mean, all generations are using social media. The numbers are up and down depending on what piece of social media we're talking about. I mean, Gen Y are the paragons of social media as digital natives, and you have more detail in the report to help you talk about that internally. Facebook and YouTube, again, if you have to choose where to go, and it depends on your age subset, they are go-to places that they are ubiquitous and everywhere with everyone. Most donors are willing to share and promote causes. How do we do a better job with that and maybe we gamify sharing and promoting better within social media? And images and video are important all the way across age subsets. I think we need to do a better job with digital and video assets with social media campaigns for fundraising or advocacy. But it's a reminder, direct donations through social networks remain a small percentage, but that's not the modus operandi for this. Social media is our place to inspire, spread the word, and move people to another comfortable transactive place. And I think that's important. So I am going to pass it over to Danielle to take over. I think we're staying on time, so we want to make sure we're on time for you. And I'm ready to be Vanna White and move things along for Danielle whenever she's ready.
All right, thanks so much, Mike. So I wanted to talk to you a little bit about what should you be doing on social media. And like Mike said, it all depends on, yes, there are trends out there, but where are your constituents? To the next slide. So you've really got to build, and the reason you've got to build not only your base of fans, friends, and followers, you've got to build because you've got to build your engagement and your momentum. And that's important because it helps you raise awareness through that engagement. It can help you recruit volunteers. That could be volunteers that are actually coming to your location or going to projects and doing something. And that could be volunteers that are doing work from home for you and doing virtual volunteering. It definitely has an impact to your revenue. Even though we're not seeing donations rise on those different assets, people are making them. But the way I really like to look at social media is that it's about relational fundraising, right? You integrate it with what you're doing offline and other online avenues. And it grows your relationships and people's affinity for your organization. So there is a direct correlation to revenue in that way. And it's a wonderful resource when you build to crowdsource ideas and resources. I encourage the clients I work with to reach out to the people that are most active with your social media outlets. Use them to be evangelists. Use them to further and share your campaigns and your messages. So that's why it's so important to really build, looking at where your constituents are, to build your presence and to build who's following you. The next one. So looking at some of those results, this is just a few ideas to consider how you're engaging and what you're doing. YouTube is the most popular site. Look into the nonprofit program they have. It really has some great resources for nonprofits in allowing you to do more with YouTube. Make sure you're branding your channel. Facebook, I like to say don't think wall, think mall. Think beyond what you're just posting. Think about taking advantage of the new setup they have with the cover photo and the profile. You take advantage of the About Us section. Integrate it if you can by putting a donate tab and an e-news sign up. Even though you're not seeing a lot of traction with donations, it's still good to have an easy way for people to do it if they're so inspired. Twitter, short and to the point, brand your page, tweet as a person. And Flickr, any of those assets out there that allow you to do video and pictures is really important for you to integrate. You can integrate Facebook, or you can integrate with Facebook and Twitter, embed on your website, and it's great if you think about it for posting event pictures, volunteer projects, and thank you images. And you can go ahead. Above all else, think about the conversation. No matter what platform you use, be human and honest. Have a distinct voice and personality, even if multiple people are managing your posting. Make sure there's a cohesiveness to that voice. It's really important to be casual. You don't want to be institutional. You want people to feel like your organization and your mission is approachable. Make it about the people participating, not you. And you all know this in your fundraising efforts, it's about your audience. It's about your donors. It's about your constituents. What do they want to know? What do they want to hear about? What excites them? It's not what you think they need to know that's important. And then just some tips for getting more friends and fans and followers. Mike, you can go ahead and advance. Put a like button and integrate your social media and your email signature. It was really big when I was at Boys and Girls Clubs, when I worked at Boys and Girls Clubs, to make sure that all staff had a template for their email signature on their work emails. And part of that was integrating the links so people could find out about our social media assets. Update your email stationery. Are people easily able to share your messages if they get a great e-news, or find out where your Twitter feed is? Ask supporters. Do campaigns. Like Mike said, profile your base and do campaigns to tell people about the assets you have, to spread your message. Give them a reason to sign up. What breaking information can they get? And check out resources like wisestamp.com. Those are great, and there's some free things that you can do that allow you to integrate better with your email signatures and your website. And above all else, the reason why this is so important, the building and how you engage, the voice you have, is the ripple effect. And here's just an example on Facebook. For every 1,000 friends and fans, that equates to around 70 views per impression. And that is pretty high. But the point here is no matter whether it's Facebook or Flickr or YouTube, it's that ripple effect that builds your awareness, builds the momentum you have and your presence so that it raises your relevancy in your community. And just a few quick examples that I'm going to run through, and like Mike said, you're going to get this deck, and so it's really about digesting this once you're off this call. This is a great example from Calgary Zoo's 2012 annual report on Instagram, which is a great use. Make it interactive. Don't just send it out and print it. Don't just direct them to a PDF to download. The imagery can work the same as video. 1 in 4 donors identified the photo streams as future methods for engaging with nonprofits. So it's really good, and the interest is really growing in Pinterest as well. Even though that growth is slowing down, it's still growing. So engagement through Pinterest, the next slide. Here's a great example being put to work with the Canadian Cancer Society. Really wonderful stuff, and obviously some missions might be more positioned to take advantage of things like Flickr and Pinterest, like environmental organizations, your animal organizations, your animal rights. Some of those are fantastic for taking advantage of these sites, whereas when I worked for a child abuse prevention agency, not so much. Here's another best practice, Canada with Pinterest and Plan Canada. This is really great how they did it. Take a look. Go follow these different organizations. Get ideas from them. See what people are doing and how it's resonating with their base. And then videos, no matter your budget. There are so many great free resources out there now. And you all know the videos that go viral are not your professionally developed videos that maybe the local TV station helped you produce. You know, they're identified as a point of engagement. They move people. They tell a story. And at the end of the day, people don't remember your statistics. They remember your story and how it made them feel. And with all of that, like Mike started to touch on at the end, steward your donors. So it's not just about engaging your fans and your followers. They can become future supporters. But don't forget to utilize these free resources, these free platforms, to amplify your message. Make social media part of your gratitude strategy. That's what we like to mention it in the GO program, what I work in. Amplify your thank yous, your stewardship. Amplify your cultivation and doing shout-outs. Create moments with your social media. You might as well. It's free. Here's just a couple of examples on the next slide of some of the things you can do. A donor makes a really great donation. Post a shout-out on Facebook or Twitter. Ask donors to post on Twitter or Facebook for you and tag the organization. Invite a donor to blog. Change your cover photos to reflect maybe a volunteer project that's taken place or even a thank you banner. And create videos. Vine is a wonderful tool to create really informal, great videos. Charity Water is one of those organizations that does amazing work. Yes, they have a big budget, but there are so many free resources. You can take advantage of that for donor stewardship and cultivation. And like I just mentioned, stories. Create moments. I like to call them mission moments. And here's a great quote that really drives that home. An asteroid plummeting toward Earth is one thing, but an asteroid plummeting toward Earth and a family we've gotten to know personally is quite another. People remember it. It moves them. It moves them to take action. It moves them to share. It moves them to like. And just a few resources to get you started, and I won't read through these, but just some links in here. Creative ideas for Pinterest. Someone I follow and really get a lot of information from is John Hayden. So when you print this out, take a look at these. I think you'll find them useful. And some to-dos based on all of this. Make sure you have a preference. Concentrate on 1 or 2 or 3 based on your staff and your resources. Don't spread yourself too thin. You want to do great on 1 or 2 networks versus doing okay on 4 or 5. Be social, have a conversation. Integrate, think cross-channel, think about your campaigns that are coming up, your events, program updates. How can you integrate and amplify those messages? And remember, social media is most powerful when it combines the human movement. And like I said, it's that conversation and story. And find a way to calculate your return on engagement, your return on investment. There's wonderful articles and studies out there and charts that will help you do that by setting goals. Some more things to consider. What makes sense for your organization? Can you leverage existing content? I worked with my marketing person at Boys and Girls Clubs to create like a bank of ideas and thoughts and what we could use so we didn't have to repeat the wheel. Can your organization make video accessible to your donors? We know it's powerful. We know they like to take it. So just go through these considerations when making sense of what you might want to start new on a platform or where you need to focus on and concentrate what you're doing already. 6 things to know for social excellence. I want to make sure I move through these so Mike can wrap up soon. Define your success. What does that look like for you? If you don't define it, you don't know what it is. So set goals. Be specific and measurable. If any of you are in major gifts, individual giving, you know this. You've got to set goals. You've got to be able to track them. Be realistic. Increasing your followers or fans by 60%, not so realistic. So look at the growth and momentum you've had and set a goal that you think you can achieve. Of course, a stretch goal. And be timely on those. Set a timeline for when you want to do them. Create and prioritize your content. Sit down and see what your program staff are doing, what events are going on in and outside of fundraising, what publications are going out, and prioritize what you want to spread across the different mediums. And even think about providing a content calendar to help you guide everyone on what themes happen each month or each quarter. And get internal buy-in. I can't tell you how important that is. I've worked for organizations where that's kind of a wall you hit. You've got to get management involved. Frankly, you should be getting your CEO and program staff involved in posting as well, involved in getting things out there. It's good to have them, have a presence too. It's really a full contact sport. And then, Mike, I'm going to throw this to you so you can talk about the rest of the slides, starting with integration.
That's great. Thanks, Danielle. So we'll just bring this in for a landing. Danielle, thanks so much for that. Lots to chew on very quickly, but I think there's a structure for you to go back and make sense and change things and improve things with your organization. So number 4 in integration, how does social network fundraising, capital campaigns, you can see the $1 billion campaign for Believe It. You can see social media is playing a role there, or the Ride to Conquer Cancer is relying on these things. So social media can play a role from capital campaign to major gift to other areas of fundraising. We have to integrate it into all of the things that we do, and we see the same thing when we look at the Canadian Cancer Society. All fundraising campaigns, large or small, are connecting to social media, and social media is connecting to it. So point number 5, to be successful, know the metrics before the campaign. I think this is a great takeaway from Facebook to Twitter to Pinterest to general social media. Here are things for you to print off and take a look at as you put an improved plan together. And so when we put a calendar together, it's looking at metrics for success and choosing them, but it's also putting that on a piece of paper where you can see how, what, when, and how many are interconnected and nicely color-coded in this case. So it's easy for your senior management to understand what you're up to. There we go. So last on these success numbers, calendarizing the content. So there's metrics of success, getting the empiricism and numbers, and then putting the calendar of activity together. So events, email messages, campaigns, newsworthy updates, call to action, all of these things in a communications plan. And here's a nice purple example of what you might begin to improve on or build, where you can see what's happening on what day, in which social media presence, and how you coordinate those things together to make it easy. Many of you do this already very well in annual campaigns. Not as many organizations create really a German train schedule for social media, but those things need to be done, and done very well. So key learnings, just a reminder from our conversation today, both from NextGen and what Danielle and I have been talking to you about. We cannot overlook social media as a complement to other branding activities. I mean, it does work, and it works in a fundraising sense. That it's true, like Danielle was saying, that we see improvements in fundraising, not just brand awareness, when we better combine and connect social media to other channels. We know social media represents a small portion of direct giving in Canada, but that's not what we're talking about today. It has an interlocutor role when it comes to transaction, right? It's not the cause, but it is a connector, an interlocutor. And we want social media, we want you to create these plans and use it better to steward, engage, connect, and give customer delight, like that Danielle example of a shout out with a donation. I mean, that's customer delight. That's kind of a surprise. And when you surprise and delight a customer, a donor, we know retention and second gift opportunities and average gift go way up. And then a reminder that imagery and video, we need to do a better job and invest more resources as it relates to both fundraising and advocacy connected to social media and video. And to wrap up, just a reminder about and a connection here to the next generation of giving. There's a white paper that's coming out soon in the next week. You saw at the beginning that we'll be sending an email with a number of connections, especially with a download of today's slide deck, so you can get a meeting and win over your board and get them educated on how you can use social media more effectively. And just a reminder that social media is connected to integrated fundraising. And 2 years ago, the Integrated Marketing Advisory Board began, and it was to create liturgy on integrated marketing and fundraising campaigns that include excellent use of social media. There have been 6 awards given over 2 years. I'm proud to say that Canada has scooped up half of those awards. So I would say in social media fundraising and integrated marketing, we may be punching over our weight. So make sure you subscribe to IMAB, and you will get great examples of integrated marketing that include how social media connects to activities. So just a quick reminder, you'll be getting lots of good stuff and baubles tomorrow and the following days. I look forward to those. There are more webinars coming soon, and I just wanted to see if there were a question or two that Danielle and I could answer, and then we'll be done. So I've got a question here. What is better for a nonprofit to have? One Facebook page for the foundation, or have a foundation page as well as separate pages for each signature event? Danielle, did you want to take a crack at that to begin with, and maybe I can pipe in?
Sure, Facebook Foundation. Well, that's a good one, and we faced that when I was at Boys and Girls Clubs, and we had our one Facebook page because it allowed us to control it, but within that we set up, especially when it came to events, event pages. Even if it was part of our other clubs, we had 27 clubs and we have 13 boards, if you can imagine. One Boys and Girls Clubs, and we made the decision to have one page and manage the messaging for everything with participation from other folks because it allowed us to control our brand. So if your foundation has an extremely different brand, then that might be one thing, and then maybe you just like their page, but otherwise I think it makes sense from a control and brand perspective to try to have one, and within that integrate events and other messaging.
That's great. And I think we'll take one more question here. Any data on best platform for website in order to move forward with social media, e.g. Joomla, WordPress, or does it matter? Do we know yet how many clients are using different kinds of apps for events? I think what we're going to do is take that question and in the email response back with other content, we may have some of our internal experts provide a commentary or two on platforms that work well with social media. But Blackbaud has spent the last number of years, for example, making many of their platforms as best connected to social media as possible. So everyone's making those investments to leverage the kinds of rise of social media and the data that you've seen in NextGen today. So with that, I wanted to thank everyone. We're going to give you a few minutes of free time. I think we've covered our content. We've answered a few questions. Everyone has busy lives and workplaces, and they need to get back. So on behalf of Blackbaud and HJC, thanks everyone for listening in. Be prepared to get lots of great material in the next few days, and I wanted to thank Danielle for doing a fantastic job and participating today. And everyone have a great Thursday, and in Canada that means we're going into a Thanksgiving weekend, so I hope everyone has a great Thanksgiving. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.